Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Sit back, get comfy, and let me tell you of one man's cruelty and ambition, leading him to a path of death. Anton Mithroy was born the son of a wealthy plantation owner. Spoiled as a child, Anton and his elder brother were always in competition for their father's attention. Both were charming children, and they were the subject of many words of praise by adults around them. At 12, Anton had a fit of rage against his brother and pushed him in a swamp infested by alligators. Hearing the child's cry of horror, workers came, but it was much too late. Horrified at what he had done, Anton fell into dumbness. During this period in bed, he heard people expressing their horror at Anton being a witness to this horrible accident. Failing sleep, Anton felt two exhilarating emotions. He was thrilled that his bad actions wasn't seen or suspected, and happy of his manipulations of the adult's emotions. But more troubling was that Anton watched his brother get devoured by the reptiles with secret glee. The rest of his spoiled childhood passed normally. He loved cockfights, especially to see these animals in fury shedding each other's blood. It gave Anton a high level of secret exaltation. He married, when he was young, to a refined and educated woman, Nicole, the daughter of a rich tailor. That he was married did not prevent Anton from looking at other women, and his wife sometimes waited for him to come home until dawn. Anton became a minor practitioner of a form of bardic magic called spell singing, casting involving either singing or dancing. He never became an expert in it, but his love of dancing had a definite influence on his future magical studies. Charm and intelligence were used by Anton to rise in local politics. He was always in the company of elite, and soon he was a sought-after advisor. He once had to advise in case of a local band of minor ruffians and bandits. The leader of the ruffians was a beautiful woman of color named Nanea, that he easily charmed to bed. For Anton, wild horse rides and cock or alligator fights were no longer enough. He used excuses to justify kidnapping a troublesome shop owner. They rode to the swamp and gave him the infamous Souragne burial, thrown into the swamp to be. Anton watched until there was nothing left. In the following years, Mithroy killed many in this horrible manner. He eventually ran out of political enemies, but it did not stop him. In the end, he and Nanea's thugs were snatching random people at night for this grisly fate. Meanwhile, Nanea slowly planted seeds of doubt in Anton's head about his wife Fidelity. Anton could not really believe that his dull wife was having an affair, but the idea troubled him. One day, Mithroy came home early, and in the garden he found his wife in the arms of a neighboring plantation owner. While she was actually weeping about her unhappy life, while the gentleman confronted her, Mithroy quickly denounced them as lovers. With the triumphant Nanea and her ruffians, Anton had both of them thrown into a patch of quicksand, barely deep enough to cover a man's head. Nanea and the other ruffians left Anton alone, to watch the pair slowly drown. He told them that if they admitted their relations, Anton would throw them a rope. Since the lovers had nothing to confess, Mithroy ignored their pleas of mercy and let them drown. At one point, the man told Anton's wife to climb atop him while he went under. When he was sure that the man has died, he said that this was a proof of their love, and then used the pole to push her in. With her last breath, his wife cursed him, but he laughed in her face. When she had disappeared, he sat on a log to enjoy a few gulps of a strong brandy. The swamp went suddenly very quiet. Then the murdered pair arose, grabbed Anton by his coat and dragged him into the quicksand to die. Horrified, Anton yelled to the sky to save him while he drowned. Something heard his plea, and Anton found himself able to escape the quicksand. Days had passed. Anton's flesh was bloated with water and his skin swollen and bloody from the nasty bites of insects. Panicking and far from understanding what happened, Mithroy slowly walked back to his plantation, to see the road seemed now merely a path through the swamps bordering his plantation. Seeing a monster coming out of the swamp, the workers of his plantation attacked him and drove him back to where he came from. Looking at his image mirrored in the water, he saw he had become a hideous creature, one of the living dead. Near mad at this horrible turn of events, Anton wandered the swamp angrily for years. He eventually considered the swamp to be his land and killed most humans found trespassing in it, especially his former workers. He quickly discovered he was able to raise those he killed as zombies, and quickly became the legendary Lord of the Dead. One day, he found an island in the swamp inhabited by a plant-like woman. The Maiden of the Swamp was horrified by Anton's fate and thought he was a fae-like creature like her, but who hadn't yet been connected with the land. Over a period of 2 years, she helped him learn the powers found in nature's essence. Anton manipulated her during all this time. She taught Mizroy by showing him the energy flowing around life and death and how to manipulate those forces through dance or rituals with the land. He told her his secret wish was to regain his appearance, his humanity, and she showed him how to use nature's positive weave of energy to make himself appear human again. When the maiden learned that Anton had not abandoned his fascination with necromantic power and was practicing in secret, it was far too late. Mizroy's inner power was so great, he was the undisputed master of Souragne. The year was 645 when Anton regained his humanity. However, the power rituals he made with his land to get these new abilities had a drawback. He found he could not leave the swamp anymore. As the maiden was limited to her island, Anton was no longer able to walk the land. Solid land was as his quicksand. Now Anton enjoys a quiet existence in his plantation. The manor's house appearance has declined over the years and is in need of maintenance, but the owner finds a certain charm to it. While he cannot leave the swamp, Anton is able to learn much of what is taking place on the land. Usually he is just an observer, but sometimes wishes to play a part or desires to meet some he thinks are worthy of his attention. He will then attract them in a swamp where he meets them in person under the guise of an old-fashioned gentleman. Anton is not as bloodthirsty as before he became a Darklord, but he loves to share his excitement at watching the pain and suffering with those he thinks who will appreciate it. Anton has a unique power. He is able to make his spirit leave his body and travel to other lands. He is able to observe what is going on in those places, and he does not like what he sees out there. In his opinion, the other domain rulers are not sophisticated enough to fully enjoy their condition or simply too single-minded. The Lord of the Dead has only a couple of rules, but breaking them always leads to death. The first edict is that newly dead bodies are to be left unburied and unmaimed for 4 days, in case his whims lead him to raise them as zombies. The second is an interdict on the practice in Souragne of any kind of magic other than necromantic or healing. While Mizroy doesn't know when this ban is trespassed, he has many informers who would tell him of the culprit spellcaster. Mizroy feels secure that no one practicing necromancy can really challenge his power, but he is not as confident about the other branches of magic, which he does not understand. Even with all his limitations, deep inside him, Anton is convinced he cheated his fate. He survived the death and beat the dark powers. He restored his humanity, regained his old life, and learned necromantic power more potent than his wildest dreams. But he knows this is a lie. Every time he allows himself to become complacent and forgets that he is a dead man dressing up as a mortal, he is painfully reminded. Often he wakes to a horrible stench, his bloody and sticky skin releasing a foul odor of decayed and rotting flesh. The dark powers are not nothing if not creative, and continually remind Mizroy of his inhumanity with a myriad of reminders, both blunt and subtle. Thank you so much for your time, patient listeners. Anton Mizroy might not be the most involved Darklord, but he should not be underestimated. So please, for now and always, be careful while crossing the mists.